Hey guys, welcome back to Crawl TV. Here we are in Illinois, and it's the coldest, windiest day, of course, of the week, and it's the only day that we have to put a lift kit in, so we're going to go ahead and do it. This is just the Pro Comp 1.75 inch spacer lift that we're throwing in. It shouldn't take that long. It's about 4:30 in the afternoon, so we'll hopefully get it done before we run out of daylight. Right now we've got all of our stuff that I think we'll need laid out here. We've got the Jeep here, and don't mind the bagsters full of stuff in the driveway. We're remodeling our house right now at the same time. Always staying busy here at Crawl TV headquarters, but we're gonna jump right into it. I've got the back wheels on the Jeep chocked right now, and we're gonna jack up the front end, pull the tires off. We're gonna get those coils in first. So bear with me as we go through this. Hopefully there's no wind noise and static and stuff on this video, but here we go. First thing that we're going to do is just jack this up, get those wheels pulled off, and then we'll put these jack stands underneath of it so that we can access those coils. We'll lift right from the pumpkin on this. Now this will lift it a little bit unevenly. The passenger side will come up after the driver's side. And if we need to, I'll lift from that side as well. Now, since we have to drop the coil out, I'm going to want to put this jack stand underneath the frame on this side. That should be plenty high enough. This is all stock suspension, so on our last Jeep we had to always use big spacer blocks because that's so much down travel. But since we're starting over, old stock Jeep here, we should be just fine. So I'm going to put these jack stands right up in here below the frame. I'll actually lift it just a little bit higher. That articulation, bro. Oh, perfecto. Now, I'll lower this side and jack it up a little higher on the passenger side. That should work for us. Jack stand number 2 will go in the same place right over here, and we'll just slide it in right underneath this frame. Now that I've got the Jeep in place, the front end is off the ground and the frame is sitting on jack stands, I can go ahead and remove the jack, put the weight of the vehicle on those stands, and let the front end drop all the way down. When we pull the tires off, we'll have a little bit extra down travel so that we can drop it even lower to get those coils out of there. So we'll pull this out now. And we're going to zip these wheels off really quick. Uh-oh. I unplugged myself. No power. Maybe I shouldn't stand on the cord. There we go. I'm using my most basic tools here because this is not the shop, this is my house, and so I don't have a lot of stuff here, but
that's the idea, is this is a lift you can do at home.
Exactly, thank you. This is something that anybody can do in their driveway, which is why we're doing it in our driveway.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So the first things that we're going to do here, we are going to pull the lower shock, or the shock off from the lower end here, and then we're going to pull the brake line bracket out, and then we're going to pull the sway bar link off and try and lower this front end a little bit more. So we'll start here with this shock. This is an 18 millimeter, and we'll just ratchet it off here. If I can get in here and out of your way at the same time.
Yeah, you're fine.
And then I've got my adjustable hammer.
Hey, Snapchat from Jason.
Hey, thanks Jason. I'm gonna hold off on pulling that out until I pull everything else out, I guess. But next we're gonna do the brake line bracket, 10 millimeter ratchet and a 13 millimeter wrench. Wrench goes on the back side of it. Ratchet goes right here on that coil mount. And this is all stuff that's never been taken off of this Jeep before, so it is a little bit firm on there, but like I said, I'm just using our basic hand tools that we have here at the house. Craftsman tools, if you're watching this, these are all Craftsman. But I got more stuff at work. When we put the tires back on, I don't even have a torque wrench, so we'll just be putting them on by hand so that I don't over torque them with my impact wrench. Let's see here.
But it's freezing and cold, and we have hand tools, so if this is happening now, you can do it too.
What's your excuse? Brake line bracket is out of there. What's up? Next thing, sway bar link. For that, grab your 18 again. You already have it out. And our adjustable hammer.
He's gonna come up with a better name for that.
Basic handyman speed wrench. Let's see. This is a croissant wrench. Oh, croissant.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah. Oof.
Oh baby.
And to cut down on some video time, you guys should know that this is the exact same thing on the driver's side once we're done with this. So, if you can do the right side, you can sure do the left side. Alright. Get that sway bar link out of there. Little itty bitty sway bar link. It's an adjustable hammer and a pickle fork if you need it to be. Sway bar link out. Now this shock is going to be a bit more work to get. I may have to actually jack up from that lower control arm again just to kind of loosen the stress on that bolt so that we can pull it out. But once that comes out, this side should be ready to drop. Essentially, your shocks on this thing are going to be your limiting factor. So we'll get that jacked up and knock it out really quick. There we go. All right. We put just a small amount of pressure on that lower control arm mount. You can see that that bolt is now just loosey-goosey. Since it doesn't have all that stress on it, I can knock it right out.
Your hat's in the way again.
Oh, I'm sorry. There it is. Now we'll drop this, what is that thing called? Floor jack? And we're gonna do the same thing on the driver's side. And you can see how much lower that axle is dropping now. Once that driver's side is done the exact same way, this thing will be free enough. You can see that coil. And just kind of, come on. There we go. So now the driver's side is done just like the passenger side was. And now we're going to lower the jack below this axle and give you a view of what it looks like when that suspension gets unloaded. So here it goes, it's going down. And it'll take all the weight off of that coil, just like the passenger side. We can pull this jack right out. And now this coil, maybe just a little bit of motivation here. Yeah. Second coil's out. Oh yeah. Now before we put the coil spacer on top of the coil in the front of the Jeep, we're going to want to upgrade the bump stops. These bump stops come with the Pro Comp spacer lift, and what they do is actually extend the stock length about 2 to 3 inches on your Jeep. What that's going to do for you when you're out on the road or the trails is actually limit the up travel of your axle. And if it can't go as far up, the tire can't go up into the wheel well as far, and it won't rub inside of there. So to get these in, can't be a one-man job. I'm gonna have Grace help me on this one. Grace, get ready.
First you gotta pull the old one out.
Right, so the first thing we're gonna do, thank you, is we're gonna pull this old bump stop out. They're kind of nasty, and you can just get them by hand normally. Yuck. Okay, that's your old bump stop. Garbage. New bump stop, not garbage. So I'm going to spray this down with a little bit of WD-40 to kind of ease it in there. And then Grace is going to keep it steady as I jack it up into place. We'll spray it down here. And I can set it in about halfway, but there is an indent on that bump stop. And there's little indentations on that bump stop tube that it'll actually push up into and snap into place. So I'll get it set there. We're going to use a dead blow hammer as a spacer, and that's going to kind of keep it straight as it moves up in there, because a lot of times what it'll want to do is go in and get cockeyed, and then you got to start over. So Grace will be working the hammer and keeping that thing straight as I slowly jack it up into place. Let's do this. So the wind blew our camera over as we were putting that bump stop in.
Of course it did.
And you missed some quality footage there, but basically Grace held the dead blow hammer here and kind of leveraged it back and forth. This thing is going to want to wiggle around as it gets pushed up in there, and it's going to want to kick out to one side or the other. Yeah. So if you hold something here to space it, give it a little more room between, or a little less room between the bump stop and the axle, and then as it gets up in contacts, you're just going to want to keep your hand on it and guide it in there.
Have whoever's lifting lift really, really slowly, because the person on the hammer is going to have to watch where it's kicking and kind of adjust along the way.
Yeah, and that's about it. Once it pops in, you'll feel it and hear it, and then you can just slowly lower the axle back down and you'll be done. So we just finished up the passenger side as far as getting the coil spacer in and the coil in. To do this, it's very easy. Once again, I just spray everything down with a quick coat, lube it up. And I'm going to slide this coil spacer over the bump stop tube here, and we're going to leave the stock coil spring isolator in place up top. This will just fit right up to it. So we'll just slide this in, and this is a job you can do by hand. At first it looks like it's not going to fit, but with a little motivation it does go on. Come on.
And it's going on the concave side first.
Right. There will be a small nipple that points downward, and that's going to fit inside of the top of the coil. Go on.
Motivate it.
Yeah. If you don't go up, you're grounded.
Oh my gosh, it worked.
Yep.
Wow.
It did not want that to happen.
I'm taking his cell phone.
Yeah. Now, for the second part here, we're just going to throw this coil in. You will have to put some pressure on the axle to get it to rotate. The driver's side will sit higher than the passenger side, free hanging.
For the first side, so.
Another thing to mention is that the passenger side still doesn't hang low enough to just squeeze this right in. So you will need some help. And if you don't have help, another option for you is to remove the drag link and maybe even the track bar just to get that a little bit lower for you. But we'll drop this down. I'm just gonna put my foot on it, see if I can get this coil in there.
Are you too good for your home?
Okay, I'm gonna need your help again.
Okay. Should I figure out where to set the camera, or do you think people can figure it out from here? Just show them where I'm gonna be standing to push down.
Okay, Grace is gonna be putting her foot right here on our tie rod, and we may even put a jack stand, or sorry, the floor jack underneath the passenger side, just to make it rotate more toward the driver's side. So Grace and I got this coil muscled into place, and now we just have to make sure that it's set properly, and then we'll button the front end up and move on to the rear end. One thing that you want to note when you put the coils in is that there's a small indentation right here where my index finger is, and you're going to want to rotate that coil until it seats inside of that, and then you can start putting everything back together. So here we go. Starting with this sway-by link. I'll have to jack the axle back up first. As we jack this up, we're going to make sure that we guide the shock into the lower shock bracket there. So I'll just do this. Oh, sorry. Slowly and carefully here.
Alright.
Okay, we're close. Perfect. All right, I'm gonna leave it there for now. We'll get the sway bar links hooked up. I actually have to route this brake line in front of that shock. Just take it down till it's good and tight. Gut and tight. German word
Now we're going German?
German word for I don't have a torque wrench. Okay. Where can my brake line bracket be? There's one half of it. Aha, okay. And the nut is welded to the bracket, so you only need to pull out the bolt. We'll put that back in place with our 10mm, the most commonly lost tool in any man's tool chest.
I think you tweeted that a few days ago.
I did. Perfect. We just got to connect our front shock. Looks like I need to lower the axle just a tiny bit. Man, I'm good.
Like a glove?
What you know about that? All right. Sorry, I'm getting in your way.
No, it's okay. We'll work around.
Yep. There we go.
Getting a lot of great shots of your flannel. Really, just who makes this?
Got it at Walmart.
Wonderful quality.
Got it at Walmart. All right. Driver's side's done. We'll move on to the passenger side, and then once the passenger side's done, we'll throw the new front wheels and tires on. So now the last step for our front end job here before we move on to the back is putting these tires on it. So these are the Maxxis Bighorn 35 12.5 17s on Krager wheels. You should have seen our other video by now with the Dyna beads. These have the beads in them. We mounted these white wall in, so we'll make sure to put them on the Jeep the same way. And I'll just throw these on really quick, and then we can move on to the back. The important part, before you put the wheels on, you should put the center caps in them. You'll have to excuse my friend. He's a little slow. There we go. I do love this for you. Okay, like I said earlier, I'm going to put these on not using the impact wrench. I don't want to over torque them. I will check them with the torque wrench when I take it in to do the alignment. Said maybe may not be high enough, so I'm going to take the jack over there. And once both front tires are on, we'll remove the jack stands and torque them down. Alright guys, we're back. Front end's all done. We moved the wheel chucks to the front tires because we're going to be pulling the back ones off. Right now we're fighting daytime and the elements a little bit. It's starting to rain over here, so we're going to try and get this knocked out. I've got to get the back end lifted up, pull those wheels off, put the jack stands in just like the front end, and then we will get started. So here we go. I don't know if you can see this, but I'm lifting right from that pumpkin
on the diff.
On the diff, yep. And since that's centered on the axle will lift evenly on the back end. Row, row, row your boat. Right. Let's throw those jack stands in. We're going to put these on the frame right in front of where that control arm comes out. Perfect. Aha! Luckily, I just had these wheels off the other day, but when I took them off to get the TPMS sensors out, it took quite a bit of force to pull them off because they were seized on there. So you may have to get a 2x4, lay it across the inside of the back wheel and hit it with a hammer to, you know, get it, keep it off of that hub back there. This should come on. Okay. Uno más. So the lift comes with sway bar link drop brackets, some anti-lock. There's anti-seize. That's not anti-seize, that's Loctite.
Loctite.
Yeah. And then new hardware because it is going to be extended. So these will actually mount like that, and then the sway bar will actually mount up just, you know, whatever that is, 1 inch lower. So we're gonna have to drop the sway bar for that at the frame. We're gonna drop the sway bar links again, just like we did in the front, and see if we can drop those coils out of there. So we'll drop this brake line as well, give it a little bit of room to lower down, and then we'll pull the rear shocks out. Hercules, Hercules. Ooh. These ones are especially tight. Okay, now before we remove this shock at the lower side of the axle, I'm going to want to remove this brake line bracket so that it doesn't overextend our brake lines here. So that looks like a 10 millimeter. Just work that off really quick. That should honestly be fine. I'll leave that hooked up on that. Okay. Now, you. Also an 18. This whole Jeep is made out of 18 millimeter bolts, I swear. It's probably going to be another tough one. Is that can of WD-40 around here?
Yep.
All right, thank you. Ooh, that was easier than the sway bar link. I'll still.
Right, never mind.
I'll still lube these up just a little bit. Okay, now just like when we did the front axle, we are going to want to put just a tiny bit of pressure on this to keep that bolt from being so tight. We'll do the same thing to get the sway bar link bolt out there. Rear shock bolt is out. Sway bar link bolt is out of there. Okay, so now I can lower this side down. And we'll do the same on the driver's side. Now, to get the sway bar drop brackets in, we actually have to remove the sway bar at the frame up here. They're two 16 millimeter bolts, fairly long, and they're definitely tight in there on this thing. I could use the impact, but we're doing a driveway build here, so I'll use my hand tools on this thing. I already lubed it up with some WD-40. I don't have any penetrating oil here, but we'll get in there, give it a good hard pull. On this side. Got less room to work with here, so I'll use my handy tool extender. Just slide my wrench over my ratchet, give myself a little bit more leverage. There we go. Perfect. Another trick for your tool bag, although that one's pretty simple. And I should have warned you before we started this, although common sense would say it, do not wear your Sunday best while you do these jobs. This is some dirty, dirty work.
That's why you got your nice flannel on.
Oh yeah. Sway bar's out. It's resting on the exhaust right now, but it's not hooked up at the bottom or top end anymore. Now we got to pull these coils out of the back so that we can get the spacers on them. We'll put those back in, put the brackets in for the sway bar, and then we'll just button everything right back up. So to pull these coils, I don't know how much pressure I'm going to need on this, but I should be able to feasibly work those out of there. I wish I had a big pry bar.
I wish we had a lighting guy. I'm working the phone and the lamp over here.
There we go. I was about to go grab the old stock track bar from our last Jeep to kind of leverage things. So here it is, the rear coil. And the rear coil mount came right off with it. So we'll set this down, pull the rear coil out of the other side, and then we'll meet you back up when we put the spacers in. So we're going to mount the stock isolators on top of our new coil spacers. And we'll put these in on top of the coil, just like that, and we'll raise this up into place. And Grace, I may just need a little bit of your help here. As I move this up, may need to push on down on this axle a little bit.
Okay, let me situate the light.
Okay, so while we were putting the coil springs in, we had to use coil spring compressors. The footage for that was really dark and hard to see because we were both in the way there, but
not quite like the front axles.
Right, yeah. Coil spring compressors will save you a lot of time on this job. They're really easy to use. Just pinch on 2 points and pull it down, and then that coil and the coil on the passenger side and the rear went right in. And now the last step for installing this lift is putting in these sway bar drop brackets that go between the frame and the sway bar itself. So we'll throw these in, and we're going to be using these round spacers to go inside of it, right where the bolt runs through it. Put that in place, and then we're going to be using red Loctite on the bolts themselves. There we go. And then we'll do this on the passenger side as well. We'll run these in, and then we'll get everything buttoned back up. So after these go in, what we'll be doing is we'll reconnect the sway bar links, and then we'll reconnect the rear shocks. We'll put the brakes back up on the frame, and then we'll put the brake line, yeah, thank you, the brake line back on the frame, and then we'll put the new Krager wheels and Maxxis tires on the back, and then we'll get everything torqued down and check the alignment up front for the steering wheel. Alright, so here we go. Putting that in. Maybe a little harder than I thought. In you go. All right, perfect. Well, that one was much easier.
That was easy.
Okay. All right. Okay, so these sway bar brackets are now in, and the whole reason that these go in is because when you drop the suspension, the sway bar has to reach lower to work, and sway bars work best when they're parallel with the ground. What they do is they prevent the body roll of the Jeep, so keeping these things parallel by dropping them down will actually keep your ride control the same, keep your Jeep from getting too much body roll while you're out there driving. So that's the purpose behind those, and we'll do the same thing on the passenger side, and we'll start getting everything else buttoned up. So as you can see, we finished the Jeep, back end and front end. We got our 35s tucked in here, and it looks really good. We're really excited about it. We do get a little bit of tire rub with the 35s up in the front end, and it's just catching on that front skid plate there, so we'll trim that back a little bit so that we can get our full turning radius back. Otherwise, I know the video was a little bit dark as we were finishing it up. We took a second and reviewed all of our footage. It was a little bit rough, so wanted to show you the finished product. I'm going to take the camera and actually run underneath the Jeep and show you what those sway bar drop mounts look like in the daylight so that you can actually see it if you're trying to follow along here. So I'll grab the camera and show you really quick. So here's the daytime view of our Jeep. What I wanted to show you was that sway bar drop bracket up there. Since the film did get pretty dark in the daytime, you can see it fully installed there. And there's the spacer lift in the daytime that sits right on top of the coil. And while I've got you here, there is our stock diff cover. We're going to be replacing that with a TerraFlex diff cover in our next video, so stay tuned. Now I bet you're wondering why we have the stock spare tire on the back still. These 35-inch tires on steel wheels are a little bit too heavy for our back door, and we actually broke the back door on our last Jeep going off of a big ledge that caught the tire, and we don't want that to happen again. It sounded like a tail gunner back there. So instead, we're going to keep the spare tire in the back of the Jeep until we get our upgraded rear tire carrier, and then at that point we'll mount that. Now for the lift kit install, last thing I wanted to cover is that I had help. Grace here was an awesome wingman, and if you have trouble getting those coils out in the front or rear, you do have the option to remove the drag link and both track bars. And even if you want to, you can remove that front drive shaft. That'll help you lower the axles far enough to pull those things out and put the new ones in pretty easily. And we did have to use coil compressors in this video. We didn't get that on footage, but we did squeeze that back set of coils to put them in there. As always though, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to send me a message, comment on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, whatever you need to do to get a hold of us. and we will respond. I'll even climb underneath the Jeep and show you myself if I have to. So I'll end it there. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. And thanks for watching Crawl TV. Now, the first thing that you want to do is you want to get yourself an extended bump stop. I don't care how you do it. Make one, go to Quadratech and buy one, but you're going to need it for the lift.
I love your Christopher Walken.
All right.
That's so good.
All right, let's get serious.
Okay.
Well, not too serious. It'll be fun. Okay. Tell me when you're ready.